Go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Weiler, and I am your host today for the March 18th, 2025 DVMUG Zoom meeting. We will be discussing the latest news from Apple and also sharing some videos that I think you will find helpful for your Mac and iPhone and Apple products usage. At any rate, let's get started with the news. There is a copy of this, I believe, in the chat, if John's got it there at this point.
Yep,
And
I see it there.
okay, it's also in the DVMUG folder, but it shows the news items we will talk and also links that will take you directly to the full articles. And if any of this you find interesting, strikes your interest, I encourage you to read the full articles. After this, we will move to a screen of videos, and they also will have links so you can review the videos at your leisure after the meeting. But let's get started. Our first article, as you can see, is iOS 19. I guess it isn't here yet, I don't think, but when it arrives, it can transform, or it should transform your AirPods into real-time translation. So that's a feature that Apple is hoping to add. Um, it'll be very nice if they pull it off. Unfortunately, Apple's been having a little bit of trouble following through with some of what it's been promising recently, but the AirPod Pro 2s already function as hearing aids for people who have mild to moderate hearing loss. And the possibility of two people who speak different languages being able to use AirPods as a translation tool is quite intriguing. And Apple says that it will be demonstrating this in the World Wide Web um, June 25 meeting that's coming up. It's all powered through Apple Intelligence, or their version of AI, or so they say. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, on to the next. This article just showed up, I believe, yesterday. Apple Intelligence was both too early and too late. So there has been a lot of controversy over this introduction of Apple's AI. They unveiled it at the worldwide WWDC 24 meeting last June. And what they have accomplished so far is kind of a mix of launching some of what they were promising, but many of the features, the ones that in particular that were highlighted at the meeting, have not yet come into fruition. So there's this issue of over-promising and under-delivering, which is creating a lot of criticism. According to this article, it was written by David Price of Apple Breakfast and Mac World, that many companies now are far ahead of Apple in developing artificial intelligence. So how did that happen? He says Apple must address this failure honestly and transparently if it wants to regain the confidence of its customers. Are there any comments or questions?
Well, Apple Jason Snell pointed this out because he wrote the book for um, photos for taking control of books. Apple has been calling it for years machine learning. And they have on the M chips, they have special sections for doing processing, and mainly it was used for photos, for enhancing the photos. That's how they make the photos look so good. So, they kind of don't mention that we've been doing this for years, but everybody thinks that you should be able to speak to Siri and have it like spit back stuff, and Siri is what's terrible.
Well, it kind of strikes me that Siri is, we talk about Siri as the like the Clippy assistant, but we also use the term Siri for just the whole machine learning kind of AI that Apple uses. And it's always struck me. I remember years ago, they were like proclaiming how Siri is the most advanced um, machine learning system. And it never struck me as it. And they proclaimed how amazing it was. Well, everybody else basically raced past it. And for instance, I mean, Siri is great for doing simple things like I love using Siri when I'm listening to podcasts. Um, go back 1 minute, go louder, softer, things like pause, things like that works brilliantly. And the newer iOS device like this Pro 15 Pro Max, it does it on machine, so there's not that delay while it communicates with the mothership and then comes back with the command. It happens like right away, which is great. But as far as other stuff, it's ridiculous. Like for instance, spelling correction. I mean, if you go to Google, if you are completely sorry for the rant, if you completely don't know how to spell a word and you guess, but you're way off, Google more than often than not can figure out what word you're looking for. Siri, on the other hand, it goes letter by letter. And if you get the first letter right, none of the rest, it won't guess at all. If the second letter is wrong, and so on. It's like so simplistic, and it's like seems like it's decades past its sell by date as far as stuff like that. So, with all the money that Apple has, I can't believe that this article suggests that they're way over their head. They can't do two things or 10 things at once. It's like I don't understand that why they can't be all hands on deck and do all these things. They got all the money in the universe. Sorry, end of rant.
You
Slash.
know, my sentiment exactly is I have similar experiences and wrong answers and that kind of stuff. There should be, as far as I'm concerned, there should be no excuse for that. And the rent.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your comments. It is an unusual time for Apple. There's an uneasiness kind of out there that I sense. Um, and actually, I want to backtrack a little bit and just make a recommendation. I did not get this officially into this array of news, but there has been an update put out by Apple that it might be beneficial for you to install. And if John would describe it, we
Right.
move on there.
I think that happened last week. It was well, Rick's going to show a little video on it. It's a bug fix. It's not any
It's
features.
critical,
Everybody should do it.
critical bug fix.
Right.
Right. Well, if it were the piece from last week, that's what I thought it was, and I
Mm-mm.
didn't include it. If it's the same one, but if it's something new that's shown up this week, um, then
I think it may have. I don't know. I think it may have been after the meeting, like on Wednesday last week or something. It's
Right after the meeting.
right.
Okay. Well, we can deal with that.
It was referenced in the Sunday newsletter, and I put it on the BBS.
Yeah.
to
What
remind them.
promulgated was that so many people on the BBS are saying, "Have you tried this update yet? Is it safe?" When, when it's a critical update, you don't mess around waiting for it to be safe. You do it because it's a 0 day, and people don't know what a 0 day is, and that's what we'll talk about later.
Okay. So when we get to questions and answers and find out what 0 day is, yes, let's be sure everybody who's watching is aware of the how to get that update and why it's important to do it. So moving on. Some of you, maybe many of you recognize this screen. This was what Apple used when it was introducing Snow Leopard, and a very stable operating system from 16 years ago. And Philippe Esposito of 9 to 5 Mac says Apple needs another Snow Leopard to fix its software. And what he's talking about is more philosophy. Apple released iOS 18 last September, and that's when they were touting these great Apple Intelligence new features and improvements in Siri. But since then, we found that much of that hasn't even been put out yet, and some of it is buggy. So there's delay. And the criticism, as I mentioned earlier, what Esposito is saying, it would be better for Apple to prioritize software stability rather than dumping a plethora of new features. And this is what the Snow Leopard OS did back in 2009. The focus was on a very stable, dependable, and refined working system that just worked. And Esposito's suggesting this is what Apple should get back to and avoid overpromising and under delivering. Any comments or questions?
Well, unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen. It's been on the news, rumored heavily that in June at WWDC, iOS and macOS are going to get the biggest remodel since Big Sur and macOS and iOS 7 or something. It's completely visually different rehab.
I don't know. We don't need a new operating system every year.
I couldn't agree more.
We get
It's
new
too much.
features, but it's going to be visually different. Like, do you remember Big Sur? The one I called it the candy ass interface, where everything looked different and was reshaped, and
Yeah.
it was completely visually different.
Yeah. Not looking forward to it.
So may I ask a history question here? So I'm looking at at the Wikipedia page for macOS versions, and it looks like Leopard ran on both PowerPC and Intel, and Snow Leopard, it was for Intel processors only. Is that right?
They dropped support for the PowerPC, but they touted there was 0 new features, 0. So they basically just fixed stuff and made it more reliable and cleaned it up. But
Marketing
0
doesn't
new
like
features.
marketing doesn't like that.
Mhm. Well, okay. Moving on to something that is maybe a bit more embraced. We're going to have a 4th season of Ted Lasso. Ted's coming back. And I know I never really wanted to get onto Apple TV, but we caught on to Ted Lasso and subscribed and watched all 3 seasons. It really was a fun program that we enjoyed very much. Jason Sudeikis is the actor who portrays Ted, but he also is the show's executive producer. And so he's letting people know there will be this fourth season. I'm curious how many of the members of this group have watched Ted Lasso.
Let me see a couple of hands.
Yeah, don't everybody raise your hand at the same time. Okay.
I enjoyed it. I got to say, staying with my curmudgeonly spirit today, which I seem to have, I did find it. I like the first seasons better than the third. So hopefully, with all this time passing, the fourth will come roaring back. Not that there was anything wrong with season 3, but it just didn't grab me like season 1 and maybe 2. Was that your experience, Peter, or was it all equally good?
Oh, I think the first season tends to be new and fresh and tends to lead the pack, but I enjoyed the other two as well, the other two seasons.
I got to say, I resubscribed to Apple TV Plus like probably about a month ago. Having been not subscribed for about a year, and I was surprised how little I found that I stocked up in the Apple TV Plus library of series to binge watch. So I can certainly see why they'd want another season of Ted Lasso.
Has anybody watched that? Ted Lasso was the most popular and surpassed by this new one. Severance is now
Severance is terrible. I gave up on that piece of
has
junk.
more viewers
I
than Ted
love
Lasso
Severance.
Really? It makes no sense to me. I stopped. I watched the first season, and through the second episode of the second season, I said, I think I'd rather go watch paint dry.
Well, when the series The Prisoner was
Oh, that was
popular,
great. That was great.
there's similarities, but maybe your tastes have changed over the years.
Well,
So let me see. Today I read that Rick would rather let paint dry, and he'd rather throw $3 in the trash. So
$5. They're going to
Five.
bump it.
$5.
$5.
Yeah.
$3 is too hard. I got to throw the fiver.
I thought I said 5.
okay, moving on.
Yes.
The iPhone 17 Air is marking a new beginning, quote unquote, for Apple. So, Apple, we're getting into rumors here, but it is evidently going to be very thin, and they showed a picture. I don't know if anybody actually got a true picture of the prototype, but it looked about half as thick as a typical iPhone. It's going to have the A19 chip and a excellent display, but only a single 48 megapixel rear camera. And it's leaving out features like shutter count and SIM card slot and stuff like that. Priority is going to slimness. Apple probably is going to be incorporating more of these features into future iPhone models. So you can time when you want to replace your phones.
SIM card slot? What's that?
A SIM card slot?
Yeah, when was the last phone that had a SIM card slot?
Geez, I don't know.
I thought they were all gone
So-
already.
So is it going to be slim enough to fold it? You can finally
No,
get a
that's
foldable one.
That's a whole
That's a
other
different
deal.
rumor.
That's a different rumor.
Yeah.
Here again, Apple is permitting all of this speculation on vaporware and vapor products, and that which we've been complaining about with their artificial intelligence. When Jobs was alive, he never would allow this kind of discussion to go into stuff that is not released yet. I think this is a mistake for Apple to encourage this kind of stuff.
Do they encourage it? Do they have any say in it?
No.
I think they could have a say in it, but they're sitting back mute and not saying anything when they could very easily come out and say, hey, it's a lot of speculation. We don't announce things in advance, and everything that you're reading is just a bunch of rumors, and we will let you know in due time when a new product is coming.
And that's the way Apple talked about things in the late 80s. We had t-shirts that said, I am not allowed to talk about unreleased products with
Exactly.
the Apple.
Exactly. And that wasn't a bad thing. But these kind of things actually harm sales, I think, because somebody's going to say, well, they got a new SE out, but I'm going to wait for the 17.
Well,
But,
I think a lot of the rumors, these people who have these websites that specialize in that, they have contacts in they're so big now, and everything's manufactured, in the supply chain. There's things coming down, and they leak out of those other where they're making the parts for it about what the parts are, and then they speculate on what that's going to be in the phone.
And a big source of leaks are the companies that make accessories like
Right,
cases.
They need to know what the case is and how the camera is configured, and so they can make them and be available. Yeah, exactly. It's so big, it's hard to see where those leaks are coming from. One of the rumors of the what do they call it, the Air, 17 Air, was Apple contemplated not putting any ports on it, making it totally wireless. And they decided not to do that because the EU requires a USB-C port. So they can make it even thinner with no port.
So Bruce, in answer to your question, if they make it thin enough and you sit down hard enough, yes, it can fold, but only once.
Well, there was also a rumor said they're not going to make whatever they call the Air Plus with a bigger screen, because remember they had one phone that was big and it was bending. It was bend gate or something. The phones were bending.
Yeah, the iPhone 6 bent if you sat on it.
I have a 6 Plus right here, and it's pretty darn thin and pretty big.
Great phone.
6 Plus. Anybody want to buy it? 6 Plus with 64 gigs?
Hey, John, if you're holding it up, your camera's off, so we can't see it.
Excuse me. How thin it is? Can you see how thin it is?
Yeah.
Very thin and with a big screen. It was $1,000 phone when it was new. I'll sell it for $20. Works fine. Has GSM, it still works.
I put the $5 bill in the gutter. Why don't you take $5 for it?
No, they're going for 40 on eBay.
Do you recall when having a portable phone that allowed you to do two things, dial a number out and receive a number coming in, and talk? That was it. How exciting that was, And our phones have certainly become a lot more than they were.
Well, I remember a friend who had a car phone, and all the electronics were in the trunk, made up of tubes.
Right.
Right.
And
Okay.
what decade would that have been? When would that have been?
70s.
Okay.
In 1948, 49, and 50, I remember the chief of the county hospital in Martinez always drove a powder blue Cadillac convertible, and he had this monster thing in the trunk and a telephone with a dial
Yeah.
up between by the shifter.
Yeah, and it looked like a regular phone. You'd pick it up and you'd call the mobile operator, and she
Right.
would make your call, like, call this number for me and hook me up.
I had that at home when I lived in Modesto. I had to tell the operator which number I wanted.
Yeah.
I remember Steve Martin in a movie years ago, driving and talking on a cell phone that was, about 2 feet tall or something. real excited about it. Let's move on to the last news item, okay? Which is this one is from Jason Cross of Macworld. Apple internally acknowledges ugly and embarrassing Siri delay. So this is a little more about some of the mishaps, but when we were talking about was it iOS 19? No, not 19. It was the
Yeah, iOS 19.
well, yeah, at any rate, the Siri problem is one of having been hyped up in terms of what it was going to do and so forth, and then not being able to get it done. And so these delays, at this point, features that aren't there, like on-screen awareness, personal context, and in-app actions, are delayed until at least 2026, which that covers 2027 and beyond, I think. But it's been a real problem for Apple. The delaying the features that were supposed to be in iOS 18, promised in iOS 18 now, are put off to, well, sometime in iOS 19. So hopefully they're going to clean up their act. And
Yeah, so that's the one I think I was commenting on before. And I agree, Rick must be, I agree, this one must be what has Apple execs losing their minds over, that the release of internal documents saying this, because that suggests, it's crazy. They can't hire enough people to do committed projects and cleanup. That makes no sense, especially in this period where in the tech industry in Silicon Valley, there have been just wave after wave of layoffs throughout the industry, that they can't hire people to meet their commitments going out 2 years into the future. That's just, wow, talk about bad press. That's just incredible. Wonder if how that's going to affect the stock price, this particular news item.
well,
For a $3 trillion company, they can afford to put another guy on the project. It's just beyond understanding at this point why this is happening.
Jason Cross in the article asks, how did so many companies get so far ahead of Apple in implementing artificial intelligence? And, how did that happen? And it's a good question because Apple has all the money and a huge workforce. One would think they could get the best designers. So let's move on to the videos. And this first video, actually, I have a few short videos mixed in here. This one's 2 minutes long, and it's why the iPhone has 2 ways to answer calls. Bear with me. Many of you probably already know this information, but I found it very worthwhile to review. And here is the sheet that will have all of the videos listed.
When receiving a call on iPhone, you may see a screen with 2 buttons, red to decline and green to accept. But other times you may see a screen with a slider that says slide to answer with no option to decline. So what's going on here? Well, Apple actually provides 2 different incoming call screens depending on the state of the device. If it's unlocked and being used, it'll show the red and green buttons. If it's locked, the slider appears instead. The reason Apple does this is to prevent users from accidentally answering or declining calls while their phone is in their pocket, bag, or purse. The buttons are easier to press, so Apple only shows them if you're actively using the phone, while the slider is much harder to activate accidentally. But this wasn't always the case. The first 5 versions of iOS only had one incoming call screen with the red and green buttons, but users complained that they would accidentally decline or answer when reaching for their iPhone to see who was calling. So in iOS 6, Apple introduced the slide to answer feature when iPhone was locked. But it wasn't really a new concept, though. Apple had used slide to unlock since the original iPhone to prevent users from accidentally unlocking their device and dialing numbers. This was actually a common issue with mobile phones at the time, and it was called butt dialing. Almost anyone who had a cell phone experienced this. In fact, when iPhone was introduced, many people assumed butt dialing would become more common since the screen was activated by touch. But because Apple used the slide to unlock feature, it became less of an issue. And today, butt dialing hardly ever happens, which is why it was a no-brainer to use the same feature for the incoming call screen, making it almost impossible for users to accidentally answer or decline calls. In fact, Apple may have made it too difficult, because many users don't even know how to decline a call when the slide to answer screen appears, since there's no visual cue, but it can be done by double pressing the side button. So that is why iPhone has 2 ways to answer calls. This is Greg with Apple Explained. Thanks for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next video.
Butt dialing happens all the time still. Because people don't lock their screen. They finish with the call and then put it in their pocket or purse, and the phone rubs around and hits the screen on the last call all the time.
And declining by double clicking on that lock button. Yeah, simple things I actually hadn't been fully conscious of before. Okay.
Put your phone away.
In all honesty, John, when I butt dialed you today, it wasn't really a butt dial. I went to recent and my finger hit yours as the person I meant to.
I call it a butt dial. It's like,
yeah,
it
wasn't
constantly.
the proverbial. I forgot to lock my screen, which, trust me, I'm known to do.
Yeah.
Okay, our next video is with Gary Rosenwig, and it's on using the safe mode. I learned quite a bit when I watched this the first time.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let's take a look at using safe mode on your Mac. So safe mode is a special mode that you can get to by restarting your Mac in a special way. It can help sometimes solving some problems with your Mac. Most likely, if you're looking to boot into safe mode, it's because you've read somewhere or been told by somebody in a support role that booting into safe mode may fix a problem you're having. Booting into safe mode actually does 3 different things. First, it will run some diagnostics when you boot into safe mode. If it finds any problems, it may actually just automatically fix those. So just booting into safe mode and then booting back into normal mode may actually fix some things. Second, it will reset some caches used by certain processes on your Mac. Doing that may also just automatically fix things that may be wrong. And third, when you boot into safe mode, your Mac isn't going to load third-party extensions and things that run in the background. And it won't load some other things, like, for instance, any non-system fonts. This allows you to check your Mac very easily to determine whether the problem you're having is with the hardware or your base system, or with something that you have installed. Now, first, before you reboot your Mac into safe mode, something you want to try is just doing a normal restart of your Mac. That actually does check for some problems and may fix things. So you just want to try a normal restart and see if whatever problem you're having is still there. If that doesn't work, then you can boot into safe mode in one of 2 ways, depending on if you have a newer Apple Silicon Mac or an older Apple Intel Mac. If you're unsure, you can check this by going to the Apple menu and then about this Mac. Then look and see what it says for chip. If you see anything with an M, like M1, M2, M3, or so on, then you have Apple Silicon. If instead you see the word Intel, that means you have an older Mac with an Intel processor. By the way, if you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. So if you have an Apple Silicon Mac, to boot in safe mode, what you want to do is first shut down your Mac. Then you want to start it up by pressing and holding the power button. On MacBooks, that will be a key on the keyboard. On other Macs, like for instance, on a Mac Mini, It's a button on the actual device. You want to continue holding the power button until you see loading startup options. Then you can release the power button and wait for it to finish. Now you should see a list of the drives you have attached to your Mac, probably just the one drive, Macintosh hard drive, or perhaps you've renamed it. You want to click on it, and you'll see underneath it a button for restarting your Mac using that drive. But what you want to do now is hold the Shift key down, and you'll see it will change to indicate that you can start in safe mode. So with the Shift key held down, you want to click, and now it's going to boot in safe mode. So now you want to wait for it to reboot in safe mode. You may have to enter your Mac account password twice. I think the first time it's for File Vault, and the second time is to actually log into the account. And if you want to check whether or not you successfully booted into safe mode, you can go to the Apple menu and then go to the first item, but hold the Option key down. And now this will take you to System Information. Go and select Software on the left. And once you do, there's a spot on the right that shows you which mode you're booted into, and it should say Safe. Now, once you're in safe mode, don't try to do any actual work. Don't try to open up any of your regular documents. Instead, try to recreate the problem. For instance, if you're seeing a problem with Finder windows, open up a Finder window or two and see if the problem occurs in safe mode. If the problem you've been experiencing doesn't happen in safe mode, now you know that it's not a hardware issue and it's not an issue with the operating system. It's got to be an issue with something you've installed on your Mac. But what you don't know at this point is whether booting to safe mode has actually fixed the problem by running diagnostics and clearing out caches. So the next thing you want to do, regardless of whether the problem is there or not, is to restart your Mac and let it boot in normal mode. Now, if you experience the problem in safe mode, it's probably still there in regular mode. And at this point, you want to contact support at your company's school or call Apple support for home users and try to get to the bottom of it. But if the problem wasn't there in safe mode, but now it's back again when you're using your Mac regularly, now you need to investigate further. For instance, go into System Settings and under General, look for Login Items and Extensions. So here's the items that will automatically launch when you log into your account. And below that, you'll see third-party apps that will launch in the background. It's most likely something here that is causing the problem. So what you want to do is a process of elimination, turning different things off, restarting, and seeing if the problem's still there. Once you've identified that one of these items is actually causing the problem, you can contact support for that company and find out maybe if there's an update or something you could do to alleviate the problem, or uninstall the software if you don't need it anymore. Another useful technique that's similar to safe mode is to create a separate user account. You go into System Settings and then look for Users and Groups. And here you can add a user and you can create another user that's just you. Just give it a temporary name and then set it up. And it'll basically be a default account. Everything's set to default. There shouldn't be any apps or extensions running when you log into this account. If the problem doesn't happen with this account, but still happens with your main account, then it's just a matter of finding out what is running in your main account that isn't running in this new default account that is causing the problem. You can go to this page at Apple's site for more details about safe mode. You'll also find information on this page on how to start in safe mode if you're using an older Intel Mac. Basically, what you do is you hold the Shift key down while booting your Mac, and it will go right into safe mode and show you there at the top of the screen. So there's how to use safe mode on your Mac. It won't solve any and all problems that you have, but it will help in some situations. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Any questions? When you have a problem, here's how John Sobrero or Gary go about working on it. So this next video is how to use split view on your Mac. It's an easy thing to do. Short video from Apple support, and have a look.
Split View lets you work in two apps side by side at the same time on your Mac. Here's how. We'll show you how to enter Split View and then how to use and exit it. There are a couple of ways you can enter Split View. For example, you can hold your pointer over the green button in the upper left corner of an app window, and then hold your pointer over Full Screen. Select left of screen or right of screen to choose the side in which you want the app window to appear. The other half of your screen will display any open apps that support Split View. Select an app, and it will appear side by side with your other app window. You can also enter Split View from Mission Control. Just swipe up on your Magic Mouse or trackpad with 3 or 4 fingers. Then, drag one of the open apps from the desktop onto the thumbnail of a full screen app in the Mission Control Spaces bar at the top of your screen and click the thumbnail to use it. Now, we'll show you some ways you can use Split View, and when you're done, the fastest way to exit it. To change the sides your app windows are on, just drag the toolbar of one of the windows to the other side. To make one window bigger, move the pointer over the separator bar in the middle, then drag it to the left or right. To recenter your Split View windows, double-click the separator bar. In Split View, you can work across both apps and even drag items between them. To use a different app in Split View, click the toolbar in the app window that you'd like to switch out. Hold your pointer over the green button in the top left corner of the app window and select Replace Tiled Window. Your screen will display any apps you have open that support Split View. Just select the app you want to use, and it will appear side by side with your other app window. To switch to another Split View space you've set up, swipe to the left or right with 3 or more fingers. If you've changed your accessibility settings to enable drag lock, you'll do this with 4 or more fingers instead. To exit Split View, swipe up with 3 or 4 fingers to open Mission Control. Hold the pointer over a space until the expand button appears and click it. Then click your desktop to continue using your Mac. Now you know how to set up and work in Split View to get even more out of your Mac screen. To learn more about your Mac, subscribe to the Apple Support YouTube channel or click another video to keep watching.
Any questions or comments on this one?
I've got a question.
Oh, please.
With a Split View, can you use the same app but 2 different documents in that app? For instance, like on with numbers, can you have 2 different spreadsheets open with using Split View?
It's not called Split View. It's just have 2 of them in the same screen and physically drag them down to size.
That's what I do now. So okay, so
Split View would be 2 apps.
okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Anything else?
How many people use Split View on their iPad? Do you, Rick?
I do not. It's too small.
When I was working, I would have.
I try to, but it's confusing.
Would an example be with a photo and a Word document, or is that different?
They're talking about the iPad, which is an 11 or 12-inch screen compared to the Mac.
Okay.
On the iPad, you have the 3 little dots in the top of your screen that brings up those menus.
Okay, let's move on to the next video. This one is with Ellen, and she's talking about setting an alarm on your iPhone or iPad, which all of us do. We know how to do that, but setting an alarm for a future date on the iPhone or iPad. Let's go ahead and hear what she has to say.
In this video, you'll learn how to schedule alarms on your iPhone or iPad for future dates. You can set an alarm using the built-in clock or by asking the Apple lady up to 24 hours in advance. However, you can schedule alarms a few days or weeks into the future by following the steps in this video. Welcome to Ellen's Tips for iOS, where I help seniors master their iPhones and iPads. If you find the video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. The built-in clock app doesn't support custom alarm dates, but you can set repeating alarms. For example, today is Sunday. You could schedule an alarm for Friday or the following Saturday. So let's take a look at how you can do that and how you can name that alarm. So we need to find the clock app, and I can see it here under utilities, but if I just tap the app library and start typing in clock, it appears. I'm going to open it. And at the very top, I can go ahead and tap on the plus sign, and then I can pick a time. So let's just pick a time. We'll say 10 a.m. And I'm going to say, I'm not going to repeat this. Maybe I am. Let's repeat it. So I'm going to tap on repeat, and I'm going to choose every Saturday at 10 a.m. I'm going to tap on the back button. And now below that, you'll see label. So let's label it. So this is going to remind me to sign up for a pickleball session. And I can change the sound of the alarm here if I want. So if I tap into that, you can choose any of the alarms. Classic. If I tap on classic, right now it's Constellation, but there's many classic alarms, or you can choose one of the alarms here on the first page. When you're finished, go ahead and tap on the back button. Below that, you'll see snooze. If you have that toggled on, you'll have the ability to snooze the alarm. I think it's for 10 minutes at a time. So I'll leave that on so in case I want to snooze it. And now I'm going to tap on save. And now you'll see 10 a.m. is scheduled for an alarm every Saturday at 10 a.m. to remind me to sign up for pickleball. Now that the alarm has been set, if you want to get rid of any alarms that you have set up previously, if you just take your finger and swipe to the left of that alarm, you'll see delete. If I swipe it all the way, it will delete that alarm. We can also use the calendar app to be reminded about an event. So we're going to want to open up the calendar app. I'll tap into the app library and just start typing in calendar, locate it to open it. And then I'm going to go ahead and tap the plus button in the upper right corner. And here we can put in a title for our event. I'm just going to put in title. And we can set this event for into the future. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on March 9th and just go over. And I'll tap on July 16th. I'll leave it set for 4 p.m. And we want an alarm or an alert so that we know about this event. So on alert, I'm just going to set it for at the time of the event. And then I can add it to any calendar I want it to be added to, but I'll leave it as personal. And then when I'm finished, I'm going to go ahead and tap on add. Now, you might want to change the sound of the alert that we're using because the default chord alert is short and doesn't really sound like an alarm. So to change the default alarm for the calendar app, we're going to swipe out of the calendar and we're going to come into the Settings app. We're going to tap on Notifications. Now we're going to come down and locate Calendar, tap on Calendar, and then tap on Sounds. And so chord is the default sound for the calendar, and I'm going to tap on it so you can hear it. So it's very short, and you might want to have a longer alarm. And so to do that, we're going to swipe down to the bottom and tap on Classic. And if you scroll to the bottom of Classic, this update sound for your alarm is a little bit longer, and you can adjust the volume. So I'm going to use that as the default alarm setting in the calendar app. You can also add a reminder in the calendar app if you don't want to set up an event in a future date. So I can tap on the plus sign, and instead of choosing event, I can go ahead and choose reminder and set up the same type of properties. So I would put in a title, I would go ahead and select a date and time, and you can either repeat it if you want, or you can leave it as a one-time thing, but you would set everything up. And the sound would also be what you have set for the default sound in the calendar. So previously we set up that update sound so that it's a longer sound, a longer alarm, and a little bit louder than just the chord sound. You can also use a third-party alarm clock app. There's many free ones in the App Store, and the one I'm using right now is called Alarm at Date and Time. It's a free app, and it's great for setting iPhone alarms for specific dates. Though it's not as flashy as other apps, it gets the job done. So you'll want to download it from the App Store. I'll put a link in the video description. And to set up your first alarm, you'll want to open the app, and this is what it looks like right here. You'll want to give it a name, but the first thing that's going to pop up when you open the app is it's going to ask you to allow notifications. Go ahead and do that because you want to be able to hear the alarm. So allow notifications. And then you can go ahead and put a description in for your alarm, and I'm just going to say birthday, and I will tap and create this out several months in advance, and I'll just leave the time for that right now, and I'm just going to say create an alarm. So you'll see that there are a couple of different alarms already created in here. I can tap in if I want to and change the name of the alarm, and then I would just tap save and come back. And so this is a very easy way to set up an alarm for a future date. So, and it's very basic, easy to use, and a lot better than just the regular clock app. So if you want to give this a try, you'll find a link in the video description. Here are some things to keep in mind if you're using a third-party app. Don't force quit the app. And by that, I mean, if you swipe this app halfway up the screen and then close it, it will no longer run. It has to be opened and running in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and reopen that. So don't force quit any third-party app. If you enable a focus mode, add the app to the list of exceptions. If you restart your iPhone, be sure to open the alarm app and leave it running. Don't turn off background app refresh or enable low power mode. Those are some things just to keep in mind if you're running a third-party app. That's it. Now you know how to set alarms for future dates using your iPhone or iPad, whether you prefer the built-in clock and calendar apps or a third-party solution. There's an option that works for you. Setting alarms can help you stay on top of important events, whether it's remembering a doctor's appointment, taking medication, or waking up for an early morning activity. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll be happy to help. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Very creative. Any comments or questions?
So I missed right at the top of her presentation how you set an alarm for future days on the clock app. I couldn't find any way where you do that. I just see time there.
Yeah, I don't think it was actually what we were expecting. It's like you can set it for a future date, but it's only if it repeats itself. Like if I want to set one for this Sunday, I could set it for every Sunday, but then I'd have to turn it off after this Sunday.
Do you have the option to say repeat?
Well, yeah. No, but that's the
Can
option.
you uncheck that?
You hit the repeat, and that's the only option you get. You can't say, I want to set an alarm for next Sunday, and that's it.
Huh.
It has to be like every Sunday. I
You
think
know,
the third-party app she was talking about seems a lot better.
Right, with the caveats she gave at the end about
Yeah, which negated the whole plus to the thing.
Yeah.
Calendar seems better, actually.
Even reminders.
Yep.
So wait, so what was this third-party app? I thought it was a calendar, wasn't it?
No, it was called Date and Time or something like that.
Oh.
It had a little orange clock icon.
I missed that.
And the way she went to set up the sounds for calendars, if you just open settings, go to sounds and haptics, you can scroll right down to calendar and change it right there without having to. I'm all for fewer keystrokes.
She mentioned that you can pick up some information in the notes that go with the video, and you do have the URLs for the videos if you want to check out what she was referring to.
That's cool.
Yeah. And you know, I was disappointed that there was no pickleball sound.
Oh, well.
So but then it wouldn't work after 9 o'clock, right? They close the pickleball courts at 9.
I tell you, Apple is really behind. No pickleball sound.
Okay.
So nothing has caused greater disputes in communities than pickleball courts.
Oh, in upscale communities, yeah.
This next video is from David A. Cox of Tech Talk America, and it's less than 2 minutes long, but this is on auditing your subscriptions, and I found this quite useful. See what you think.
Every year, people waste hundreds to thousands of dollars on subscriptions to apps and online services that they rarely, if ever, use. This often happens when companies lure you in by offering free or heavily discounted promotional prices, but when those subscriptions renew, the cost jumps significantly. Of course, it also doesn't help that your devices do not inform you when those apps are about to renew. Today, I'm going to show you how to quickly uncover your forgotten subscriptions that were made through the App Store, and the one and only thing that I ask in return is that you let me know in the comments how much you saved. This process is slightly different on the Mac compared to the iPhone or iPad. Let's start with the Mac. Click on the Apple icon at the top left of your screen, then navigate to System Settings. Now click on your name at the top and then choose Media and Purchases. Finally, here next to Subscriptions, click on Manage. One of the nasty little things that Apple does to bury this information is you'll notice here at the top right that the default sort order is alphabetical instead of by renewal date. My advice is to change it to renewal date, and now, starting with the apps that are at the top of the list, go on an unsubscription spree. To do this from an iPhone or iPad, go into Settings and tap on your name at the top. Now tap on subscriptions and once again, change that sort order so it's displaying the apps that renew the soonest at the top. By simply reviewing these subscriptions regularly, you can avoid unnecessary expenses and keep more of your hard-earned money. So how much did you save? Drop your total savings in the comments section and don't forget to click the like button. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This is David A. Cox with Tech Talk America. Class dismissed.
You can also access that in the App Store. You click on your account and subscriptions is there.
If you subscribe to things that aren't from the App Store, will they be there?
No, well,
Perhaps we'd have to check it out. I don't know. Any other comments?
Well, Apple Care subscriptions show up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I discovered a subscription I'd lost track of, and so I was happy to bust it, So I think that was useful.
There is some app that they advertise pretty heavily, some service. I see commercials for it all the time. Is it called Rocket or something like that? That its whole deal is supposed to be about searching for all the apps that you don't know you have, all the subscriptions.
Yeah, I get spammed with that a lot. Anyway, the account entry they're describing is the same account entry in both those places. It brings up the same part of your operating system, whether you're doing it from the App Store or account. You wind up in an account from multiple ways in Apple's operating system. They bring up the same thing.
Thanks, Bill.
Sure.
I try to when I subscribe to something, especially if it's an introductory offer or a deal on something like a newspaper subscription or something, to put it in my calendar in big capital letters when it will renew, like in 3 months or a year or whatever, so I don't miss it. Also for premium video service subscriptions, I use a Amazon device, a Fire TV stick, and I tend to when I subscribe to those things in there, most of them the subscription goes through Amazon, and Amazon makes it pretty easy to see all your subscriptions in one place. And I will often subscribe to services within the Prime app on the Fire TV stick. And then there's an easy button in there to see your subscriptions and manage them and cancel subscriptions really easily right within the Prime app on the streaming device.
Okay, very good. I've included one more video by Gary of MacMost on Mac Pages. And Pages, as most of you probably know, is Apple's word processor. It's free for us, and it just works really well. I used Microsoft Word for years, and I'm able to do just about anything I need with Apple Pages. So Gary has 10 tips, and I think they're very valuable for those who use word processors. So take a look at this.
Here are 10 useful techniques that you should know for using Pages on your Mac. So Pages is the free word processor that Apple provides for your Mac. If you want to go beyond the basics, here are 10 techniques to try. First, when you create a new document in Pages, you get a document that starts with you writing body text. You want it to be different, just change everything right away. So I'm going to change to a different font here, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and I can change other things as well. Let's make the text color a dark gray, for instance. And let's say I want this to be how my documents start. All you need to do now is update the body style. Now I can go to File, and then I'm going to Save as Template. And I'm going to save it to the template chooser like this. I'm going to name it blank 2. And now I've got this under here in my templates. I'm going to go in Pages Settings, and I'm going to set for new document, use template, and change that template to this blank 2 that's under my templates like this. So now when I do File, New, notice it starts an untitled document, and notice the body text is the font, the size, and the color that I want. Now let's say I'm working on a document. So I do a little writing, and then I save. I'll use Command S to save, and I'll save this to the desktop like that. Now let's say I go in, I add another line like that, and I use Command S to save again, and then another, and then Command S again, and then another line after that, and Command S. Every time I used Command S, it saved a version of the document. Now let's say I delete this line right here, and later on, I decide this is an important paragraph and I want to get it back. So I can go now to File and then Revert To and browse all versions. And when I do that, I can go back to the previous version there, and there is that text. I can actually select it in here and copy if I want, or I can use Restore it to this version of the document. And when you close a document like this, and then you open it again like that, it still remembers these. I go to File and Revert To. You can see I can even go back to my previous save after I've made changes. I can browse our versions and go and find that paragraph that I accidentally deleted. By the way, if you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. So in addition to being able to type math normally, you can actually insert complex equations using insert and then equation. And it could use either the LaTeX or MathML syntax here to type something. So you could just type something like this, and you could see what it will bring. But if you did something like, say, using the caret here to take 5 to the 7th power, you could see that it actually builds the equation the way you would write it on paper. You could even use math symbols, like for instance, /int for integral, and then you can type something there like that. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Search for LaTeX math reference, and you'll find a bunch of different cheat sheets and guides for what you can use and what it will look like. Now, however you add an image into a Pages document, you can, of course, resize it, and you could set its arrangement here, like to stay on page or move with text. You could also mask it. So with an image selected, you can go to Format and then look for Image, and you can mask this shape, and it gives you a selection of shapes here. For instance, let's use the rounded rectangle shape. And you can see the shape is there now, and this is the area that will be displayed when you click Done. If you stretch it or change any property of it, like I'll drag this little green dot here, you can change that. You can also resize it inside of the mask. You can drag around to show a different portion, and you click Done, and you can see now it's masked. You can even select it and then go to Format Style, and if you apply a border to that shape, the border will be applied, even a shadow will be applied there, and you've got now a masked image with a border and a shadow. Now, if you want to go with a shape that's not listed in the menu, you can use anything in here. So I'll go to Nature here, bring up this tree shape, and then I can drag and drop the image into the tree like that. And you can see now I'm masking with this shape right here, like that. Now, of course, in a document, you can select some text and copy it and then paste it somewhere else. But you could also copy not the text, but the actual formatting. If you go to Format, you'll see there's Copy Style, which instead of Command-C is just Option-Command-C. So I can use that, and then I could select some other text like that and use Option-Command-V and paste the style. Keeps the words, but it brings in the font, the color, and everything else. Of course, if you're going to do this a lot, what you really want to do is investigate using both paragraph styles and character styles for this. Now, if you need to see how many characters or words or paragraphs there are in your text, you can go to view and then show word count right there. And then you get words right here. But if you click on it, you can switch to characters without spaces, with spaces, words, paragraphs, or pages. Any of these can be very useful when you're writing to keep track of how big your document's getting. You can also click and drag this control and put it anywhere you want. So you can put it here in the right-hand corner, for instance, to get it out of the way. Here's a weird one. Let's say you need to put text throughout your document and you want to be able to change what that text is very easily, and it will change throughout the document. You can do that using tables. So I'm going to click here to create a table and just create the simplest table here with no header, rows, or columns. So I've got that now, and I'm going to reduce it to just being one cell like this, and even shrink this down. And I'm going to put whatever I want in here. And then I'm also going to, with format table, going to change the table outline to none. So it's basically just a text box now, except since it is an actual table, I can use formulas with it. I'm going to go to format, arrange, have it stay on page so I can move it wherever I want. And I'm going to option drag to create a second copy of this. And in the second copy, I'm going to change this text to a formula. I'm going to use equals, but what I'm actually going to do is just have it reference this cell. And you can see it says table 1, A1. So now when I click the green button there, it actually will echo whatever's here. If I change this to something else and then exit the table, notice this will pick it up. I can actually make other copies of this, and I can put them in different places throughout my document. And whatever I change this to, these will now reflect. So this could have all sorts of utility uses when creating documents. An interesting technique at the beginning of chapters and sections that you may see in books is to use something called drop caps, where the first letter or the whole first word is larger than the rest. Just put your cursor somewhere here in the paragraph that you want. And then under format and then style, go down to drop cap. Turn that on, and then you could pick from a variety of different styles here. So for instance, I could use this one just like that. If you wanted to include more characters, like maybe the entire first word, you can do that as well, or maybe it'd only be 2 lines instead of 3 lines. There are a lot of other different options, as you can see right here. You've got a lot of control. For instance, I can turn on a background shape like that. Now, sometimes you may want to create charts, like organizational charts or flow charts, things like that. So I'm going to use a shape here. I'm going to use a rounded rectangle, and I'm going to set this to stay on page. And now I'm going to option drag to create a few copies of it. And I can actually enter text in here if I want. But what I really want to do is connect these with lines. So you can do that if you go to insert and then go to line. Let's use the right angle kind. And it creates this. And if I drag an end to one of these shapes, it snaps to it like that. Let's insert another one like this. And I'm going to have this snap here and here. I can grab that green dot that's the middle part and guide it to how it should look. So I can do something like this. And then the cool thing is, if I move these shapes, the lines will stay connected like that. And when you're working in Pages, you have a page size. If I go to Document here on the right, I can see that it's US letter, but I can change it to say US legal or one of these other sizes. You could also create a custom page size, but you can't do it here. Instead, you have to go to File and then Page Setup. And under Paper Size, you can manage custom sizes. And here you can create something unusual. I'll just call it untitled. I can say I want it to be 7 inches by 7 inches, and here are the margins and all of that. Say OK, and now you can see it changes to untitled. It shows you your custom sizes here at the bottom, and I've got a 7 by 7 page. So there are a bunch of tips that I hope you find useful. Thanks for watching.
Well, I hope you can keep those 10 areas in mind if you use Pages.
I got to say, it all seemed very helpful. I'm just going to go back and look at the video quite a bit before I can actually remember all that.
You can always tell how recent the video is by the number of Patreon members.
Yes, that's increasing. What is a latex equation?
Latex?
And he said you can enter the equation either in latex or something else. And I thought,
never heard of it.
LaTeX has been around a lot of years. It has to do with page layout done by engineers and mathematicians. It's a language for setting up pages.
Doesn't sound near as kinky as I thought it would.
Yeah,
No, it's monotonous.
We had things in applications and companies where I was at that included the ability to include LaTeX expressions. So it's very common in this way. You can maintain the look of mathematical expressions in different applications. It's sort of like PostScript for equations.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's probably something most of us likely would never use, right?
Right.
Yeah. You never know.
What?
Once in a while, I found I was creating some pretty sophisticated equations and formulas to handle something that just came up. And it was nice to have tools that would make that easy.
You know,
Oh, go
just
ahead.
viewing the lines the boxes that he connected with lines. I think I'm gonna have to redo my home network using pages. It seemed that it would actually contort itself into a certain space. Otherwise, you got to lay it out. So.
Well, you have the link for that video, so go for it, Bruce. Yeah. There is one last video. It's a shorter one, a little over 2 minutes. And it has to do with playing music on your iPhone. And Apple has something called SharePlay, where it's possible to share the music with someone who doesn't have an iPhone. So let's have a look at that. Oops.
Starting in iOS 18, you can start a SharePlay session in Apple Music and invite others to play and control the music with you, even if they don't have an Apple Music subscription. Here's how. Before you start, the SharePlay host needs to have a subscription to Apple Music and be connected to a HomePod, Apple TV, CarPlay, or Bluetooth speaker. Both the host iPhone and guest iPhone need to be updated to the latest version of iOS and have Bluetooth turned on. Let's get started. With the host iPhone playing music to a connected speaker, tap the SharePlay button in Now Playing. Then tap the QR code that appears. Open Camera on the guest iPhone and scan the QR code shown on the host iPhone. Tap the music link when it appears on the guest iPhone, then tap Connect and wait for the host to approve. If you've never used Apple Music before, you'll be asked to create a username. On the host iPhone, tap the QR code to dismiss it and tap Approve to allow someone to join the SharePlay session. Now that you've joined as a guest, tap the mini player to open the Now Playing screen and access the SharePlay session. From here, you can control what's currently playing and add music to the queue. Swipe down on the handle to exit Now Playing on the guest iPhone and browse Apple Music. You'll be able to play from the full Apple Music catalog, even if you're not a subscriber. When you find a song you like, tap the More button next to the song and tap Play Next or Add to Queue to add it to the music queue. To go back to the current music queue, tap the mini player, then tap the Playing button in the bottom right corner of the screen. If you'd like to leave the SharePlay session, you can tap the SharePlay button at the bottom of the screen, then tap Leave. The host can also tap End to end the SharePlay session for everyone at any time. And that's how to play and control music together with SharePlay and Apple Music. Party on! To learn more about your iPhone, subscribe to the Apple Support YouTube channel or click another video to keep watching.
Back.
So if I heard that right, the host phone needs another device to be connected also to the network. So a HomePod or AirPlay or some other device.
Yep.
That it just can't be the two phones.
I have a question for everyone here. How many of you are subscribers to Apple Music?
Nope.
That was a thumbs down from Kenji. I agree. I don't subscribe to it.
I don't either.
I am subscribing to Amazon Music.
Yeah, get that with Prime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to it, but I can tell you I have subscribed to it twice just by sticking my phone in my breast pocket without turning it off.
Would that be called a butt dial?
I think it's called a nip dial.
Nip dial.
I called them up and I said, I want to do this. They said, well, you've already asked us once. And I said, well, here's the deal. If I want to get an app, I've got to put in some sort of code and recognize it's me. But apparently a 60-year-old man's nipple can order Apple Music with no secondary questions.
I'll bet you made them feel like a real boob.
Well, nice follow-up. They did get a chuckle and they took it off. And
so some time ago, Uber was pushing to us Uber drivers a feature to allow our riders to control the car audio system from their phone. And I thought, oh,
no.
Hell no.
No. I would no more give a customer at the bar the remote for the TV than I'd do that.
Yeah. Get nice loud music. Who knows?
Yes, does anybody actually subscribe to Apple Music that's here today?
Not I.
Nobody I know subscribes to it.
No.
Nobody wants to step up.
Too expensive.
Maybe the edge.
I think it's really expensive. Yeah, you can find other sources.
So for people with Apple One subscriptions, do they wind up getting Apple Music, or is it separate from even the Apple One?
Huh?
I think it's included in that.
I'm live.
I think Anne subscribes to it.
Once we get to the private recording and the Q&A, I have a question about that.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share and we can move on with questions and answers. Okay.
He has a little video he wants to show us. Go ahead and stop your share.
Okay.
You ready, Rip?
Yeah, I can do that. Let me share my screen. Should I turn on the little video? It's 50 seconds.
Yeah,
Too long.
Shall I turn it on first and then share the screen?
Now share your screen and then launch the video.
Forget to press the share sound button on the selecting screen.
Right, thank you. Share sound.
Well, there's a Rick we all know and love.
There we go. My full screen.
Yeah, but I can't, on this new version, I don't know where the share sound is.
Oh, it's on the screen before that, before you actually start the share.
Stop share.
Okay, stop share.
It's
Now,
on the pane where you select the window that you want to share.
yeah, let me get back into Zoom.
You're still sharing.
Oh, I am?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to stop the share.
Okay, and okay, there it is. There it is. Stop the share. Start the share. Okay, now
On the selection.
I see it's now in the sidebar instead of the
Yeah.
lower left.
Yes.
Okay, share. Okay, this is a 50-second video, and the question well, you'll hear the question, and then
Well, before you do that, press the play button at the top so it goes full screen.
thank you.
Here we go.
Here we go.
What is a 0-day vulnerability? And then a 0-day exploit or attack?
So at the most basic level, let's say I'm a hacker and I find a bug in your iPhone iOS software that no one else knows about, especially Apple. That's called a 0 day because the minute it's discovered, engineers have had 0 days to fix it. If I can study that 0 day, I could potentially write a program to exploit it. And that program would be called a 0 day exploit. And for iOS, the dream is that you craft a 0 day exploit that can remotely exploit someone else's iPhone without them ever knowing about it.
That's it.
And that's it. And that's it. And, you know, as our old president Jed Mark said, we need to teach people how to tell time, not how to build a clock. And I think that's really appropriate because we don't need to know how the 0 day exploit works, but when there's an update for our system that says that it deals with a 0 day exploit, we don't want to fool around and wait for a couple of days to see how people react to that update. We need to put that update in our system right now.
So essentially, a 0 day exploit is one where it's out before they have a chance to, before the company either has found it themselves and fixed it before there's something out there to exploit it in a while. So it's pretty general. I thought it was something like they set a specific date in the future where it comes into effect or something. But it's just basically something that hasn't been, that where they realize there's a problem out there and it hasn't been fixed.
Yeah, I used to wonder the same thing. What is it? You know, you talk about that stuff, but what is it? And it really is a very simple thing. It's something that's in the wild and working already, and that somebody somehow caught it. And boy, you better get your stuff in gear and write something to overcome it. And that's what they have no time at all, so they have to start while it's still working out there. That's why it's important to get that update installed immediately.
Yeah.
I read that this is an old one that they thought they had fixed a long time ago, but that they realized they hadn't fixed it good enough.
No, it's something new that they find in the wild.
No, I mean this specific one.
This video?
No, this specific exploit that they.
Oh, no, this specific exploit came out since 15.3.1 came out.
Okay.
No, the problem existed and they fixed it a while ago and now it's back.
Yeah.
They didn't fix it good enough.
Or somebody kept working at it and niggled.
Well, when they upgrade the system, they do a lot of stuff and they like took out the fix, you know, they screwed it up and they need to fix it again. They reintroduced the problem when they did something.
I never understand why some people hold off doing the updates.
Well, that's why I wanted to show this.
Saturday at the boot camp or whatever, there was a lady there going, "Oh, I always wait 3 or 4 days, sometimes a week, because I'm not really sure how it's going to work." It's like, no, that's upgrades. Updates, you knock it out because it's got security issues.
Right.
Well, the very first version, some people say that. But when you go from iOS 16 to 17, the very first version, 17.0,
but that's an upgrade.
A lot of new stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes people go, wait till 17.01.
But John, that's an upgrade.
Right.
That's an upgrade, not an update.
I was teaching the class, you got upgrades and updates. Upgrades at your leisure, whatever you want to do, but updates, there's defects.
You know, Mike, most people don't even know the difference.
If you're on 16 and you go to
That's the reason you explain
17,
it to them.
okay, once you go to the 0.0, then you need to keep on going every one, right? Because they're fixing stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So what needs to be stressed to people is that there is a big difference between an upgrade and an update. To them, it's well, it sounds the same. Leave
Yeah,
it
it's
alone for a
something
while.
new, but yeah. I tell them that just not every class, but most of the classes. It's like, hey, no.
Just as an aside, there was a very good 6-episode TV show called 0 Day, starring Robert De Niro. I would encourage you to find it and watch it. It was really good.
0 day.
It's also different on iOS, of course, the Mac OS. iOS, all the apps come from the App Store, and you upgrade those every morning. It's supposed to update overnight when it's plugged in on Wi-Fi. I get up every morning, there's 20 updates, okay, for the apps. Well, that you don't put third-party apps. Mac OS, you may install stuff not from Apple, and there's third-party stuff in there, and then maybe you got to keep that stuff up to date too. So you got to keep it all. A lot of people never look at their third-party stuff to see that there's updates.
Yeah.
I looked at that. I used to use that app that Rick turned me on to, Mac Updater. That's really a good piece of software.
It's wonderful.
Mac Updaters.
And it's
Check-
well
give
worth
you a
the
list of
20
all the
bucks.
stuff.
Not Mac Update website. This is a piece of software, Mac Updater.
Yeah, Mac
Updater,
Updater
yeah.
with an R, not Mac Update Desktop. Do not get that.
Right. No, that one you don't get.
Yeah.
You never want to download software from them, from that website. Always go to the developer's website.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, that was my contribution.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
That's good.
Did you edit that out of, did you use that to edit from a YouTube video?
Nope, I found it was a
No.
YouTube short.
It's
Okay.
short. It's like a TikTok. There's no description, no explanation. There's just you can't get the window where it says a summary or nothing. It's just it's a TikTok. And Facebook calls them reels. They're just boom,
Yeah.
boom. Their last 60 seconds and they're gone.
So should we go to Q&A?
Yeah, we should. So we'll end this video.
Mhm.
And the DVMUG members can find this link to the next section for Q&A on the BBS. So we'll see you there.